What's going on, everyone? Check out my garage here. Got my cool car, got my FZ, my bicycle. Something missing? Explain more of that in a second. How y'all been? I haven't made one of these in a minute. Things have been kind of a mess, and I'll explain why. There should have been videos. Things should have been done by now, and I've gotten kind of derailed. But, you know, it is what it is. Got my Avon shirt here. They were a sponsor once upon a time for that ZX6R build. There's a funny story about that. What's it called? J&P Cycles was the one who was supporting that whole build. They were the one doing all the parts and everything. And they set all that up, and they paid for me to do that bike. They paid for everything. It was great. You know, it was a good deal, but we didn't even use all of our budget. We could have bought whatever tires we wanted, and they have on J&P Cycles. They've got like all the tires, you know, pretty much every major brand tire. So we could have had anything. And I probably just put some Continental Attacks on it or something. I think it's what it already had. They were just old. And so yeah, the Avon though, the person I had that helped set that deal up was like, oh, I got Avon on board. They're going to set you up with tires. It's going to be great. That way we don't have to go into that budget. You'll have more for other stuff, which we didn't end up using anyway. And you'll get a few bucks from them too. And I was like, all right. And I ended up having to re-edit some video for them like 4 or 5 times before I could release it for nitty little stuff. They kept, I don't know if it's just a British company thing or what, but they were just like, oh, you know, you didn't say this exactly right. Like very weird nitpicky stuff, really little. And it even got to the point where, I don't know if you guys remember the intro I made for that, we're gonna make it cool or whatever. I don't know, there were silly intros I made. And I had a bunch of flying parts flying in the background. When you go to find stuff like that, I just look up kind of what I'm looking for and look for clear background PNGs, right? And you'll be lucky if you can find that kind of stuff. And I don't feel like making them myself, you know. I'm not gonna sit there and trace around it. If I can just find something that works on Google, I'm just gonna use that, you know. These things already take, like that stupid intro probably took 6 hours to make or something. I know it sounds dumb, but yeah, it shouldn't have taken that long. Probably didn't, but maybe I was drinking, I don't know. Anyways, so the whole thing is done, and I knew that Avon tires was gonna be on board. I didn't know what tires they're gonna use, so I just looked PNG, Avon tire, or whatever, and I found some little sport bike tires, and whoosh, they go flying through the thing. They asked me to change that to the exact tires that they were hooking me up with, and I was like, well, this is like weeks after I've made it. I've deleted that whole thing at this point, the project. I'm like, and I'm trying to explain to them, do you realize how hard that'd be at this point to go back in and change it? And then I even asked them, I was like, can you even provide me? No, of course they couldn't. They asked me to make that, and I was like, you guys are, what you're paying for and what you're asking for don't match. So, I highly doubt they'll ever hook me up with tires again. I think they were very annoyed with me. And it was like, I mean, I did everything they said. I was never like, I didn't even really communicate with them. My person did, but it was like, I don't know. What a silly company. I don't, that was fun. Anyway, where's the XR? Well, here's the funny thing. So we went out to film, not this weekend, but the weekend before, we went out to film some video of me riding the XR around, trying to get some stuff for like a reveal video, you know, like, you know, the first real ride on the bike video. And I actually had my brothers show up. My younger brother has like a Jeep Wrangler, so we took the top off. And then my other brother, Ian, he drove it. My brother Will was sitting in the back. I even bought a whole like GoPro Hero 7 just for doing this because I knew it'd be real smooth and nice. And we put it just, you know, in the 4K, and he's sitting there and filming me. And he also did a bunch of cool shots with just his cameras. He's really good with the photography and stuff. So we did a bunch of good shots and riding around, and we probably got about half the stuff we needed. And up until then, I've ridden the bike a couple times. I felt like it was running pretty good. I remember that it would occasionally seem like it had an issue around idle on the carburetor where it would kind of sputter out a little bit, but it seemed like it was very rare. Now the thing was, I think I had about 50, 60 miles on it before we went out and did that, and almost all of that riding was like kind of out on backcountry roads, on some little dirt trails around here. We were kind of just continually moving. You may slow down, you may stop for a second or something, and you go again. And going out and filming the other video, there's a lot of times where we're stopping and talking, trying to figure out what we're gonna do. And I mean, the bike wasn't getting like too hot or anything. The fan actually works good on it. The bike will sit there and run, and it's pretty good. But really quickly, it started developing this problem where the idle would just drop out on it, and you'd be idling, and you know, with that Trail Tech, I can see the exact RPMs it's idling at. Not only does it have like a, you know, thing, but it also says the number down to, you know, into 1,000, whatever. And, so I can watch it. Should be idling around 1800, maybe 2000 if it gets real hot, you know, kind of in that range. That's pretty normal dirt bike, single cylinder range. And also it would go down to like 1100 RPMs, and it's bop, 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 bop. You know, you try to grab the throttle real quick and wake it back up, and it wants to stall out. And when it started acting like this, and it would stall out, it would definitely not be a single kick. And when your bike's warmed up, it should be just, you know, with that XR, it's fine top dead center, use a little decomp lever, and bam, you should be able to fire right back on. But it would not. It was being a real asshole. And it meant that every time I came to a stop, I was having to basically throttle it, just continually kind of like pop it or try to hold it a little bit. And opening the what's it called on it seemed to make no difference. If we tried to bump the idle up a little bit, nothing happened. So it was getting pretty obnoxious all day. And then and it was the weird thing is it ran so good the day before. So that next day, or I got home after we did all that riding, and I remember I raised the tank up a little bit because you really can't get to the idle and the fuel screw under the tank on that bike. So there's like a low speed fuel screw adjustment, and then there's an idle adjustment screw. And so you kind of rebalance them. That's very common for pretty much any carburetor, but it's real particular on the Electron. So I was like, all right, so let me try to rebalance those two. I go through the whole procedure trying to balance them, and it seemed like I got it running better. But the next day I was supposed to go out again, though this time not with my brother filming out the back, but I was going to go with my buddy Anthony and Ray, and we were going to go ride around motards, and some other guys were meeting us, and we were going to, you know, do some good, they were going to help me do some filming, but it was going to be a good little supermoto ride, just small crew, a little bit of riding. It would have been great for the footage. I was all ready to go, and then I get out there and it's like, the bike is just not, I don't know, we spent the whole day before, I guess I should say, we really spent so much of the day kicking the bike, trying to get it running. It kept just stalling on me, and it was really pissing me off. Like, I thought I had squared it away when I adjusted it, and then we went out the next day and it was like the same thing instantly. I don't even think I made it 30 minutes into the ride. We had to stop twice so I could try to like get underneath the bike and bump the idle up a little bit, and it was like it wasn't making any difference. I don't know. And this is supposed to be a carburetor you just slap on a bike and it works. That's supposed to be the big thing about it. I mean, it's not exactly a cheap setup, you know, so it should do as it claims it can do, but it wasn't. So what do we do? I had to go home. I had to leave. I could get it going and get it home. And the thing about this carburetor, I want to say too, is like all the issues I seem to have seem to be around idle and coming off of idle. The thing is actually really good. Like, I'm actually surprised how much you can bog it down. The funny thing is I can bog it down, I can get in first gear, let the clutch out, then hold the rear brake, slow it down slower than it should be able to idle at, like, you know, 1300 RPMs, then whack the throttle as hard as I can, right? And it would actually spin the tire and rip into a wheelie. I mean, it's crazy. It doesn't even have an accelerator pump. It's hard for me to wrap my mind how a flat slide can do that, but it does. It's good for that. It just has this issue. And so I start talking to the company, and they said, you know, that version I had, they've made some slight tweaks between then and there. And they said, let's just send you a new carburetor. And I said, well, I think the reason they want to do that is mine they could have just sent parts to fix mine and make it like have the tweaks the newer one had. But I think they thought I'd just be faster. They want to set me up or whatever since they're already kind of like hooking me up. So they send me another one. Okay, now I've got two. I throw the other one in there, and this one actually was really good. This was like the best ever. The throttle response felt really awesome. It started real fast. I mean, it started fast before, but it just seemed like, okay, this one seemed like it was really good. But once again, same deal. You could sit there and get it running, and then around idle, it would mess up. And the weird thing was I would have it sitting here in the garage with 2 box fans on it. You know, it's got the radiator fan on it. It's not a bad little fan, but you know, if you're gonna have it really sitting there running for a while, you know, put 2 fans in front of the radiators really helps. So I could have it sitting there running. It would hold between 190 to 200 degrees like that, just idling. And I could have that bike sitting here idling perfect for like 10, 15 minutes. Rev it up, let it idle, do whatever. It just sits there. It'd probably run until it ran out of gas. But then I would pop the seat on, right? Okay, let's put the seat on, go around the block, pull it back in here, and it'd be idling at 1100 RPMs. No idea why. Nothing has changed. I've also watched it just randomly go from like idling. You're not doing anything. The temperature's not highly swinging. You're talking just in a couple seconds, watching it go from idling at like 1900 RPMs to go up to like 2300, down to 1100. It would do this weird thing. It just starts hunting all over, and you go, what the hell could make it do this? This is crazy. So there's some weird stuff with that. I also was learning some other things where you're trying to turn it up. I kind of figured it out. One of the main issues I was having with the second carburetor they sent me was that there's a part where you're trying to transition between the idle circuit and the rod circuit, and it was getting too much fuel. And it was causing a dip out. And I think that's what happens occasionally. His engines heat up, sometimes idle a little faster. I think it was basically getting caught, like it would start just pulling more and getting caught between those 2 circuits where it was having that dip out. And I think that's why it was stuttering real bad. And it was just, it was a bad deal because I could lean the rod out. The rod is like super tunable. It's not like a normal one where that's just on a clips thing. You can actually turn this one and do these little quarter turns at a time. So I could lean that out a little bit so that it didn't get too much between the transition, but then it would run lean when you were on the throttle riding around. So it was like, okay, well, you know, fix one problem, create another problem. And I mean, I really did this twice. I worked into a big circle, making it, okay, I had at one point where it was idling really good with transition. It wouldn't, I could run it around the block, bring it back in here, and it wouldn't die out. But then it would be lean when you're riding it around. So it was like, God dang it, guys. And so I talked to them about it, and they thought, well, there's something we could try tweaking this. They sent me a third one. I couldn't believe it, a third carburetor. And I was like, all right, you know, I guess. Doesn't seem like that's gonna fix it. I put that one in, and that was just terrible. That one didn't run right at all. And they have an XR up there at the place. They put these bikes, these carbs on a bike before they send them to you. They run them and make sure they're doing good, and they send them out. And so it's like, I don't know. I even was checking for air leaks and stuff. I was going back and checking other things on the bike. The bike's in good running order too. I mean, that's the thing too, is once you get off, just right off idle, it's crazy how it rips, how it runs. The bike is very strong right now. I know there's not a problem with that. I don't think there is. But regardless, we couldn't figure it out. It was just crazy. And now the company really wants to help me out. And I mean, obviously, I don't think they want me having to go make a video saying I had to go buy another carburetor or something like that. Which I've told them I will do if we can't get this going. And I will have to make a video explaining that. There's a Mikuni flat slide pumper kit that's like $420. And there's a good chance that company would probably hook it up or something anyway. So, you know, they don't want that video getting out there. I don't blame them. And they really are trying hard to fix it. But regardless, we couldn't get it going. And I started looking into this too. You go read about the 2-stroke. Guys love these carburetors. The 4-strokes, especially the bigger CC ones, a lot of people have the exact same problem I have. The bike doesn't do quite right at low speed, and idle on a big single is going to be the hardest part on a carburetor. There's just a crazy pulse in that thing. It's not consistently even pulling air. There's even a little bit of back throw because of the overlap between the intake and the exhaust timing on the valves and all that. So I understand it's tricky. And the thing about these carburetors is they didn't used to really have a proper 4-stroke carburetor. They used to just use the 2-stroke carb. And since this new people have taken it over and they really try to bring it into a newer, advance it a little bit, get it, you know, better than it was, they've added like an idle circuit. I guess I can just see it's just that transition between them. If we could fix that, then it would be fine. Honestly, I think a custom tapered rod would fix it. But anyways, oh yeah, I also talked to another guy who's got the same bike I have with Electron carb, and he goes, oh yeah, it does that to me from time to time. He goes, I just learned to live with it. And I said, okay. I mean, maybe he lives in a rural area and that's fine for him. As far as I'm concerned, a 4-stroke motorcycle, I should be able to fire that thing up and let it run until it runs out of gas. It shouldn't have weird issues like that. I shouldn't be coming to a stop at a light and having it stall out. And that's not really safe or acceptable on a bike that is a big single kick like that, you know, a big kick bike like that. So I said, guys, we got to figure something out. And they were down in San Antonio and they're on that area, and they kept saying, you think you could bring the bike to us? And I was like, I don't see how. I mean, my wife's about to give birth. I just don't, you know, by the way, she's like 2 weeks or whatever away from us having a kid. So I was like, I really can't get out of town right now. Your water could break any moment, really. So my brother, though, just randomly, he calls me up yesterday morning, and he's like, hey, I'm going to San Antonio for work. Do you want me to take your bike down there? And I was like, oh shit, actually, you know what? That actually might be really good. And so we arranged that and we took it down there. Now they've got a dyno and engineers and all these people. And he's supposed to bring it back up at the end of the week, but I don't know. They're asking me if they can keep it till the next week and then have like B-Rad or something come bring it back up to me or something like that. He works for him, by the way. And I was like, I would hate for it to be gone that long, but I was like, if you can't get it squared away before the end of the week, I think it's because the owner's out of town and he'll be back, and he's like the main R&D guy. So I was like, well, fuck, you know, let's try to get it back this week, but if you can't, you can't. But I don't know. At this point, like even if it comes back and it's perfect, it's like, it does make me feel like, what am I supposed to tell people? Yeah, buy Electron carb. It's great. You know, this carb that they sell that you just bolt on, apparently don't have to do anything but maybe slightly tweak the idle. It's like, okay, but that's obviously not been the case for me. 3 carburetors and now my bike is down there with someone actually having to get it to run right. That's just, I don't know what to tell somebody about that, you know? So I think, hopefully, what I'm really hoping that will happen out of this, I'm hoping that, one, they'll get it running right. And I think they will. I think they'll be able to come up with something where they have to custom ground a rod or do something. But what I'm really hoping more than that is that they can tell me we learned something. Because I said, I don't know how many people, especially with this bike, have had this problem of, you know, like they said they kept saying we don't see this, but I know I see people online talking about it. So you know what? It's like, here, take one that's having this exact problem that other people are talking about, and I want to get it to not do that problem. Figure out why it did that and learn something from it. Then I'd feel more comfortable endorsing this product, you know, like, but I can't, if it's just like, oh, we got it going, you just didn't know what you were doing. Okay, and I don't think they feel that way. I think they've even said, you're not the average customer is what someone was saying up there. They said, you know, you are clearly like you're a certified motorcycle mechanic. You know what you're doing. You're not just some guy just over there cranking the adjusters in wild directions like in you know. All right, I'm not. I am a dude who'll sit there and like, I'll take little drill bits and punch out, you know, jets to get half-size steps in between them because I'm meticulous like that. That's actually what yeah. That's what's in here is little drill bits that you turn by hand, drill out those little brass or whatever they are, jets to punch them out, because I'll sit there and jet bikes. I'm really good at it, actually, jetting a normal carburetor. This thing just has a problem, and it really, like I said, kept trying to tell them, like, guys, I know online people are having the same problem I'm having. So if they're saying we don't know, they're either playing dumb or they just haven't had enough experience with people's bikes that are doing this. So, I don't know. I'm hoping for the best here. I have a backup plan. Like I said, it would be, there's that Mikuni carb will go right in there. There's ways of getting an FCR carb in there, but it's damned expensive. That's like double the cost. And it's a lot more tight. Sometimes you have to cold roll the tank. Like here's the old big tank. I think you have to heat this part up right here and push this in so that the FCR will fit. But I think you can also cock it sideways and it'll make it fit. I don't know. From what I say, you can get one in there if you're determined. But I honestly think just getting the Mikuni TM40 in there is better. I mean, it's a flat slide pumper. I think they would be, like, that's what I'll have to go to. But it's frustrating. I'm supposed to be making these other videos, doing this and that. Here's a 44 tooth sprocket that's going to go on it when I get it back. It's got a 42 right now. It's still a little bit too tall. And yeah. Also, I know this has been going on for a minute here. It's a lot to explain. I'm sorry. But I had this idea though for another project. So I've been trying to think of what to do, right? And I keep coming back to like wanting some sort of Grom alternative, some kind of a Grom killer. That's what everyone was like. So I don't know if I'm gonna make a Grom killer, but I'm trying to think of like the fun small bike thing is come back. It's really popular right now. But you know, like half the stuff you do on your Grom that's fun is like off-roading it, taking it down dirt trails, just almost treating it like a mini dirt bike that's street legal, not a mini street bike that's street legal, which is what it is. So it was occurring to me, it's like, you know, it'd be cool to get a small dual sport that's like a street legal one, and one you can get for cheap and do a project, like a very attainable project, something that like, you know, like this XR, I think there's elements of it, but as a project as a whole, it's kind of silly. It's very expensive how much. Now it's gone. I want one that's a little more attainable, a little more simple. So, and I've always kind of wanted one of these bikes. So I was thinking maybe something like, what if I got a TW200? That's that fat tired Yamaha air-cooled dirt bike. And it's already kind of small. I mean, it's not Grom small, but it's definitely little. I mean, here's the FZE, and I'm pretty sure the seat on that TW is like down here, you know? It's like, it's a small bike for a dirt bike, but that hilarious tire, a tire that's as big as this tire. So they're really funny. And I was thinking we could take one of those and like, just as it sits alone, you could go like out with your buddies on the Grom and it probably will outdo everything they can do. It'll do it slightly better, but still be fun because it's a small bike, you know? Get those, I've off-roaded one. Those tires are hilarious. The way you can just kind of mule and grunt and go. It's so fun. So I was thinking, okay, what if we got one of those? And the only big problem the only thing that's not going to be cool is how it looks. It looks goofy. It looks old school. And so what I was thinking is, what if we made it kind of retro looking? Like, I know it already looks old school, but like strip it down, put real simple stuff. I don't want to like ruin any bit of the actual like I don't want to sacrifice any practicality for looks, you know, but like if it had like a small little like, you know, whatever, like tank with a flat, like almost like a Brat tracker, a Brat style bike. I think they look nuts. Of course, I looked into it. A ton of people have done this. But I couldn't find any real series on it. And I think it would be neat. I think that would be a fun series to like maybe try to get one of those so we can get some sponsors on board or something. I don't think it would even be an super expensive project, but I think we could get one, convert it into like a little like Brat tracker, and then go ride with the Grom dudes, and then also just go trail ride it and just do dumb stuff with it. Cause it's a tank of a bike, you know, you know, it's not like a Grom where if you bust the plastics up, you know, it's cheaper, it's easier, it's simpler. I don't know. These are just ideas I've got in my head, some things I was thinking about, because I've got to come up with something to do next. So, anyways, this video is way too long. Just wanted to give y'all some updates. I know it's been a while since I've done one of these. If you haven't joined the Discord, do that. We got to get this bot thing on there going so we can, it will like see who's actually, it'll make sure that the people in the Discord are current Patreons. So we got to get that going. I've been real busy with different shit around here, so I just have not been able to work on that. But we will get on that. And yep. All right. Take care.